Welcome to our main segment today, where we're going to have an engaging conversation with Dr. Don Brown, a physical therapy expert, and he's here to help guide you through some of the nuances of how our bodies interact with alcohol.
Welcome, Dr. Dan. How are you doing today?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing great. I love the idea of the podcast. And again, my whole slogan is orthopedic optimization, but that optimization also includes your body, how the things you do affect your body, your rehabilitation, and your wellness. So whether that, you have an injury and you want to keep performing a specific activity, or you have an injury and you need to be doing specific things like drinking alcohol, again, we're going to find the best recipe or, aspect to help you optimize your wellness no matter what you want to do, right?
Awesome. So let's jump in. First question here. What are long-term effects of dehydration and lack of sleep, and why? I definitely know I don't sleep as well if I've been drinking a lot, but why?
Sure. Well, again, the dehydration can affect our body's ability to recover. A lot of times when I have climbers who have a tendon injury, or runners who kind of have a knee patellar tendonitis from running too much. Again, a lot of times we have asked those questions. When you had your injury, what were you doing? What happened kind of leading up to that? And very often you'll find that dehydration is a factor involved with injury. Again, if our tendons aren't supple and hydrated, we're going to have an increased potential response to injury, because again, there's not as much malleability or softness in that tendon. So, and again, that dehydration, when you are drinking something like alcohol that's a diuretic, you're sometimes pushing out more of those nutrients and electrolytes, which are vital for optimal functioning of your physiology. So if you don't have those electrolytes, and essentially your body or your muscles and your tendons aren't satiated with those healthy vitamins and nutrients, that can also decrease your ability to heal or increase your risk for injury, right? So, and again, we can talk about ways that you can actually help improve that, right? By not just drinking water, but electrolytes and coconut water, things that have, very nutrient rich rehydration aspects. And then as far as sleep, right? Again, it affects your body's ability to get in that deep REM sleep, and sleep is one of the biggest factors of recovery for our tendons, muscles, bones, those things. So if we're not getting quality sleep, that's really going to affect your ability to heal. Or if you think, and again, we're talking more about excessive alcohol consumption, right? In smaller amounts, it's fairly nutrient dense, and it has some benefits. But in those larger amounts, right? If you wake up and you have extreme, when you're your mouth is so dry, right? That's not a good feeling. It's just, it's the same. If your mouth feels like that, your body is probably, feeling a little bit more desiccated.
That makes total sense. So you brought up ways to kind of offset that, right? You brought up some nutrition, electrolytes, and what have you. What are some exercises or stretching that you could combine with a better nutrition balance, I guess?
We're doing hot water, so we're healthy with you talking right now. Hydrating.
We
doing dry January. Yeah.
Oh, congratulations. I think that's great. And there's some benefits to that too. We'll go over that too. But again, I think when we're talking about physiology, and again, if you're drinking alcohol in excess, or more than kind of what the recommended amounts, or where those amounts where they say is actually beneficial, which is usually 1 to 2 drinks, even a day, but not more than that, right? That's usually where the research stops, is where you get into either binge drinking or 3 to 4 drinks multiple days a week. But if you stick in that 1 to 2 drink a day, there's actually some really benefits that decrease your risk for heart disease, improve your cardiovascular health. Obviously, socialization probably is associated with that. But again, if you want to decrease some of those effects, which we're talking for the people who might, let's say, drink a little bit more, or start to feel worse when they drink a little bit more, like myself, which happened when I kind of got into my late 30s, right? Again, it affects everybody differently, but I definitely have a harsher effect the next day. And so again, when we're thinking about that hydration, the lack of nutrients because we're excreting some of those because of that, and again, moderation, again, we can offset those effects by, again, hydrating, drinking and eating nutrient rich foods, timing, again, because again, the only way we can get rid of alcohol in our body is basically metabolism, which again, they always say time is the only thing. But you can increase your metabolism by actually exercising. So in theory, if you wanted to get your BAC down and to get the alcohol out of that bloodstream, which you can go for a run, you could work out, anything that is going to
get your heart going.
Yeah, anything that's going to increase your metabolism is going to burn off that alcohol out of your system faster, right?
Sure.
So if you want to go for a run, which
those
some
people are
actually
monsters to me.
it may help you. And then if not,
man.
again, you could practice by eating quality foods, and vitamins and things like that. They'll help reabsorb those nutrients into your system, which hopefully can help.
That makes sense. I've definitely had friends that are on that. Like, I wake up and I work out and I feel so much better. And I'm like, wow. I wake up and I want a breakfast burrito and like I want to do nothing all day.
Yeah, usually your body wants to get in more, right? So there was actually a study in the journal Clinical Medicine evaluated the diets of people who are drinking excessive alcohol, and it showed that taking B vitamins and zinc actually affected their hangover, and the people who had more of those vitamins in their diet actually had less severe hangovers.
Life is making more sense today.
There you go.
Right. I mean, that could be from vitamins, from meat consumption. There's a lot of different things that could do that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. That's great information.
Another thing people might not know is because alcohol has such a kind of a not a negative, but a harsher effect on your liver, because that's what processes alcohol. If you are taking a pain reliever, let's say like an NSAID, which is an anti-inflammatory drug, that can help with kind of the ache and pains. However, you don't want to take acetaminophen, which is Tylenol. And the reason for that is because something like Advil is an NSAID, it actually goes through your bloodstream. I think it's processed more through your kidneys. Tylenol is processed through your liver. So it can kind of accentuate the toxic effects on the liver. So you don't want to put more actual strain on your liver by like taking acetaminophen, which is processed by the liver. Instead, you might want to take something like an NSAID, which is processed elsewhere in the blood.
Good little tidbit right there.
Really surprised I survived COVID now, because my go-to is Tylenol.
Another big thing I always notice, I don't crave a salad when I'm drinking. But like on a normal day, I'll often eat a salad, but not while I'm out drinking beers all day. A salad sounds not that appealing.
Absolutely. You want to have one of those more greasy, like fat soaks up that more in your stomach and actually delays the effects of alcohol, which is kind of crazy. So some people say you should eat, like, if your vegetables, fat rich food like avocados, fatty ribeye, which will actually decrease the absorption of alcohol through your stomach if it's coated with a layer of fat. So that actually decreases the effects of alcohol. But again, one of the things I always wonder is, if you are trying to metabolize it faster, so if you eat a ton and you're drinking right before bed, it's going to be in your system way longer into the morning, versus if you do kind of have an empty stomach, it's going to hit you a lot faster, a lot harder, which maybe you'll drink a little less, but it'll also metabolize a little bit faster.
Sure. I never thought about that.
It's food for thought, right? Because you could say like, well, maybe I can try to limit my hangover by not eating anything, drinking as much as possible in a short time frame, and then exercising right after, then eating right before bed. And then that would probably push out most of the alcohol out of your system before you woke up, versus if you just drink steadily all night and then eat with your alcohol all night and then go to sleep without actually doing anything, you're probably going to have a higher BAC in the morning, which again, the question remains of how it affects you and if you're going to feel better or worse. But it's interesting food for thought.
Yeah, I was like, and you probably had a higher risk of getting hurt if you go out for a run when you're drinking. So there's kind of a counterbalance in it.
It's also a good point, because your performance is going to be a little bit affected.
A little bit.
So prescribe the elliptical or something.
There you go. Strap me in.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That was. I
Very
feel like
insightful.
I learned a ton of that already.
Yeah.
Next question that I know pops up a lot is, I feel like most people know the general rule of that, like, men, I think their average recommended drinks is like 2 a day, women is 1. But like, kind of like, obviously, like, I don't know, I guess like women in general are smaller, but why is that such a drastic difference? Like, what are the different effects on women's body versus men's, and like why is there that difference in rule?
For sure. And I think that's a valid question. And I think it's something that even though we might see that subjectively, having some objective data behind that is important. And I actually had to look this up because I was curious about that as well, because again, there are differences. So the main thing is metabolism. And this is, just science. Women generally have a higher proportion of body fat and lower proportion of water. So since alcohol is water soluble and not fat soluble, right? So essentially, even though like that has to do with your stomach, it also has to do with it circulating in your bloodstream. Women tend to have higher blood alcohol concentrations than men after consuming the same amount of alcohol, right? So that might be why your friend maybe seems to be drunk a little faster at certain times than that. So that's the main difference is metabolism. There are some studies that show that enzymatic differences in metabolism differ. So women tend to have lower levels of alcohol dehydrogenase, which is an enzyme responsible for breaking down that in the stomach as compared to men. And so as a result, a smaller proportion of alcohol is actually metabolized in the stomach. So AKA burned off before reaching the bloodstream.
Okay.
So
is there any way to increase that enzyme?
That's a good question. And I think I actually looked that up. And again, I don't think there's like a synthetic way of creating an alcohol dehydrogenase that would break down it in your stomach more faster.
That makes sense. So like in general, also like what I'm hearing is if you're a female and you have a higher muscle tone and less fat, then you're going to probably I would assume have a little bit more closer to like the recommendation of like what guys can drink to match that body fat and muscle ratio. Or is the enzyme a big part of that, and that doesn't really matter?
Well, the enzymatic is a little bit different than metabolism, but yes. And again, if you think about it, if you're in really good shape, let's say like you're working out and your metabolism is running at a higher rate, right? You're going to metabolize food and alcohol faster than someone who is more sedentary, who doesn't have a healthy diet, who's not exercising. So it actually does kind of play into physical fitness. And again, this is just more of a broad kind of concept of why females might, again, feel the effects of alcohol a little bit more than men due to metabolism and enzymatic differences. And again, there's also some speculation on, again, hormonal differences, right? So during different phases of, I guess, menstrual cycle, you'd say it's like that could affect, and you guys might be able to speak on this because I can't, but that might affect like how alcohol is affecting you, because it does affect the hormonal regulation in your body, right? And how you're feeling and a lot of the aspects of your brain. So that could, again, affect the mood and kind of how you're feeling or anxiety or anger or those types of things a little bit more.
Okay.
Definitely in the past, I would say threw some inhibitions to the wind because of my hormones, and like you're already out. So it's like, screw it, let's go, Oh, you want a shot? We just had one 3 minutes ago, but sure, yeah, I'd love another one. So I don't care. Today sucked. Tomorrow's going to be worse. Like, and then you wake up and you're like, I feel terrible. And I got my period. This sucks.
For
Like,
sure.
It makes sense.
And men too, like for me, if I'm upset or if I'm angry and if I drink, I kind of stick on that level of, hyperactivity or anger, kind of like more depressed kind of aspect of those feelings. So I think it just kind of accentuates the mood that you might already be in. So
great way to say that.
Yeah.
It's probably very specific to each individual, but I'm sure we all have our experiences that, good and bad, that they can kind of enhance or take away. If I would go out and I was trying to control alcohol and I wasn't drinking, I wasn't having fun, and I needed that endorphin and, endogenous kind of release of serotonin from alcohol, that kind of means that, okay, like I've become a little bit dependent and I kind of need this to make my brain chemistry be happy and be controlled in this environment. And I think that's a little bit more of if you need that to feel good versus you can go out and this would be a good experiment for a lot of people, is just to go out and say, hey, can I not drink? Or, there's so many non-alcoholic options or mocktail options these days everywhere, and every bar, everything. So you're seeing, at the liquor store, you're having those options. So, it's a good way to kind of see, okay, am I more dependent on a substance? And do I need this to have fun, or can I control it? Right. And so that's, I think, knowing if you have a healthy relationship is also pretty important, because again, it's like affecting your mental performance, when you're out, right? So we talk about physical performance, but mental is also just as important. If you're drinking right up until you go to bed, again, those effects are going to be well on throughout the night, versus if you can stop before, like an hour or two before you go to sleep, you're going to metabolize about 1 drink an hour is the average, right? Again, if you go for a 30-minute jog or on the elliptical, you might be doing 2 drinks an hour if you if you're sweating and stuff. So if
Beer
you can
mile.
metabolize that out, yeah, you can do that. The naked mile is what we did in college, and everybody would get hammered drunk and run a mile naked down like to the end of the archway at the school. So
When
I
in
was like,
college.
probably like really good, and we were never hungover, right? But it was also
Did we want to touch really quick on a little bit more on the benefits of alcohol on the body? I know you briefly brought it up, and then you said again that we didn't really get into it. But I think we should.
for sure. And again, just to give that good warm feeling about like, again, like we all like to drink, we have a lot of fun, and again, like if it's not affecting me in a negative way, which is rarely, it's usually affecting me in a positive way, right? Like it's an endorphin releaser. It makes me feel good. It enhances music. It can, and again, there are some studies that show that. Again, most of these studies are within the moderate way, but we can talk about 2 things. So it decreases your risk for cardiovascular disease. That was a really large, well done study. A lot of the things like in wine that have more of a antioxidant effect, those are really more in those blue zones, is when people are in highly social, well diet areas that they're drinking more alcohol is plant-based, right? So and they do have polyphenols and different healthy things. It also increases your HDL levels, which is your high density lipoprotein, which they can kind of consider that your good cholesterol. So moderate alcohol consumption has been linked with those beneficial changes. It also helps with insulin improvements and factors that influence blood clotting. It is a blood thinner. So my grandpa is 97. He likes to have a cocktail or 2 or 3 a day. And again, he doesn't even need glasses at 97. And I remember our ophthalmologist saying, it must be because he drinks so much vodka, because he's got a lot of people don't have, like, they decrease that blood flow as they age, and he's doing really well. So again, I think again from the circulatory system in moderation, it thins your blood, it decreases your risk for clotting, those types of things. Where again, if you're eating like a bunch of high processed, fatty, saturated fat foods, like you're eating McDonald's every day, you're more likely to have a blood clot and clotting and those things. So alcohol. Again, I'm not saying if you're eating a bunch of McDonald's to just drink a bunch afterwards to counteract the effect.
Wait a minute.
Low amounts will help your overall cardiovascular health. Again, I think the social aspects are really important. And again, I think I remember taking a alcohol class when I was in college. I got in trouble, and again, those 1 to 2 drinks a day, there's actually evidence that those people live longer than people who don't drink at all. Now, again, like there's no push to say, hey, if you don't drink, you should, right? But, again, that's just what some of the research shows. So it's like, okay, there are some benefits. And then when the Olympics, they were in Germany or somewhere like 8 years ago, but when that was happening, there was this big aspect of NPR and everybody reporting on all these athletes, drinking the beer out of the big steins. And
Germany then.
it was definitely in Germany. And in the University of Munich, they did this big study on athletes and their physical activity, and then drinking non-alcoholic beer after their physical activity. So when the marathon runners were instructed to drink 1.5 liters of non-alcoholic beer a day, right? They did blood work on all these athletes, and their risk for upper respiratory infection was actually reduced. So their percentage of white blood cells, which is an indicator of inflammation, like if you're sick, you're going to have a lot of white blood cells. Their inflammatory aspects were lowered 20%. And then again, they think this is from this phenol activity, because again, non-alcoholic beer is still beer, and beer has this as well, but it's a plant-based food, right? Or you can call it.
I call it a food.
So again, like the alcohol aspect actually kind of helps. It might not help. Like 1.5 liters is a lot of beer, right? So but that non-alcoholic aspect really helped them
moderate consumption.
Yeah, and a lot of athletes do that. It's actually prescribed for a lot of like Olympic level athletes. So and again, we talked about like rehydration and getting those electrolytes and those essential nutrients, like especially non-alcoholic beer, it's much more of a hydrating benefit for your body than just water, let's say. So that's a great way to kind of get that fixed. And like right after you get done working out, it's a great way to get those nutrients in your body and feel even better.
We're like glad we circled
love
back
it.
around to that. That was
Absolutely.
fantastic.
Crushed it. Home run.
Yeah, home run. That's
sir.
really cool. That's really interesting. And again, like, so kind of everything that we're hearing is no surprise. It's moderation, right? Moderation is going to be key. People that kind of like fight the dry January or taking a dry day off a week. Like, to me, what this is really allowing people to do is to keep that moderate level low. Like, if you're a social drinker and you like the serotonin and stuff that's coming out by being social and having a couple drinks, but like, as we all know, once you're drinking a couple drinks and a couple more, all of a sudden your tolerance goes up. Taking those days off allows you to stay hydrated longer, allows you to probably eat a little bit healthier, keep your moderation, where having 2 drinks still lets you kind of get that nice little buzz, having a good time. And now you don't have to drink 6 of them to get there.
Right.
You're going to get better sleep. You're probably going to exercise a little bit more, at least feel more able to exercise. And yeah, you're going to jump in having, you know, those extra endorphins. You're gonna get the social aspects. You're gonna get the extra vitamins and nutrients from it. So I again, like, it's no surprise moderation is key here, but it's definitely not drinking.
Yeah.
Right. All of those things kind of like go into what we're talking about today. And then again, as a PT, I see that like mental aspects of your health are just as important, setting up your physical aspect and vice versa. So, and again, they have a compounding effect. If you're exercising, you're feeling better. If you're socializing with your friends, having beer, you're going to feel better. Like those are great things. So I definitely, you know, am proactive about that and saying, hey, like, yeah, go, like, totally, you can go do that. Like, go, you know, it's just as important to do that than it is to just say, oh, I'm not going to do anything and I'm just going to sit at home and like, you know, lie in my bed. Like, oh, I'd rather you go out and have a few beers and like go exercise and like be social and get those things going, because that's going to help your overall, again, we talk about wellness and what keeps people going and happy. And so I love that connection. So I'd like to know a little bit more about that science of the brain.
So if you know someone, feel free to recommend more. We'd love to have the interview. That'd be a lot of fun. But like, even going with that, like walking over to your brewery, like you said, like instead of just sitting on the couch not doing anything, at least now you're getting a little exercise, you're getting some fresh air. All of those are going to boost all your endorphins and everything in your body in its own. Then having a couple beers and socializing. So there's definitely some benefits there, and it would be fun.
You can always change the paradigm around those things. Again, it's just not thinking in just one way, like, oh, it's bad. It's like, okay, well, how can it can be good, but how can we manage that and optimize it to our best wellness efforts to create this, you know, again, overall realm of wellness for our lives and our bodies.
Love it.
So good.
Pumped to have you on the show. I think you just have such a good balance and a reasonable like expectation out of people.
Right. I love how there's those aspects where we can make it into a positive light and still have fun. And you know, again.
Totally.
Perfect. I'll let you jump in. And
I'm going to wrap it up with a quick shout out for you. For anybody in the Boulder area or the greater Denver area looking to get over into Boulder, check out Dr. Dan and his expertise. If you're looking for a top-notch PT in the area.
I appreciate that, y'all. And yeah, if anybody needs to contact me, my contact information is on my website. You can email me or just shoot me a text as well. It's my personal number. So I run everything myself. I have a couple different office locations in the Boulder area. So look forward to working with anybody and offering that free 20-minute teleconsultation for those of you who want to get more into your wellness and optimize your performance. So thank you all for having me. I appreciate you and look forward to seeing you all soon.
Cool. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Dan.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
I feel like I need another shot of this NA.
Sorry, really not sorry, Sam.
Ooh.
Yum. That was a big drink.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. It just